Alright peeps, welcome to the Splyt Cyty map tour. Now Splyt Cyty is a start and tiles only challenge with the twist that it's split in two, as you can see here. And to prove it all, let me come out of the picture modes and show you that I have managed to stay inside of my city limits all the way around here. I mean, I've stuck out to the city limits, but I've managed to stay inside of them. But I did allow myself one caveat. I'm allowed to mess with the motorways outside of the city limits. I'm not allowed to mess with anything else. Any connections and junctions or anything like that needed to be done inside of the city limits. Editor MiGly, roll the fancy fade sequence. We're going to be going over the grafters split, but not before we're gonna have the bloody living split. I mean, would you just look at this majestic living split here with the key all the way around, helping keep the river water out, and the grandest of all, spiral about interchange. Look at how well it handles all of that bloody traffic. It needs to, all. Because everybody wants to live in Splyt Cyty, even the people atop that cruise ship there. But before I delve into all of this and show you all of its little secrets and tricks, I've got a proper fancy bit of camera work to show you first, and I hope you enjoy it. How did you enjoy me fancy bit of camera work, watching Splyt Cyty come from the ground up? So now you have some sort of idea where we started, how we progressed, and how we got to this point we're at now. Now, one of the things I can only show you using this first person perspective mod is the underground motorway system. So that's why we're on board with a fancy pants little city car here, because this city car is going to take some slip roads, and these slip roads, oh, they're going to come into play very shortly. So make sure you pay attention, because there's a lot of slip roads, there's a lot of layers to this junction, and we'll need all the help we can to bloody fathom it out. And since we've popped out here in Evergreen Swamp, why don't we begin our little tour hour here? It's rather fitting that we start over here, because this is, as you would have noticed, where we began the entirety of Splyt Cyty's living split. And it even began these fancy pants French mixed residential and commercial units. Now, we have done some slight upgrades along this strip. We squeezed in a couple of more lanes, we added a little key, and oh yes, we added an absolutely huge big old motorway interchange section. Even though this isn't even a motorway coming up to here, we just needed all of the room possible to get this to work. And I am very proud of this. Let me get over it with you. So it is simply a roundabout. You can get around any which way you want. I've got the priorities set like a correct roundabout, so you've got priority when you're on, and you're given way when you're coming onto the roundabout. We've got pedestrians at a separate level, all the way above and around. We do have the way doing though, if they want to get into the old heath here. But snaking its way above all of that is our proper little hour, the top hour passes. So as you're coming into Splyt Cyty, you get to go over or under. If you go under, you hit the roundabout there, goes into 2 lanes away you're gone. If you're gone over, you get a choice of 2 lanes to split. You can either go straight over the top of the heath and into this side of Evergreen Swamp, or like this Garbo truck's doing, you can chuck a right turn, you can come over the top of the slip roads here, gone underneath the old arch bridge, and then he conked me heat on it. And this is my favourite little bit of intersection here. It took us a while to figure out, but of course we've got these two lanes happily coming on together, not crossing anything. We've got this centre lane where the muscle car is. That's if you want to quickly get out of tune. But you'll notice, we've got this weird little right turn lane here, and look, don't mind this. This is just standard City Skylines 2 shenanigans here. Dave, no worry about it. But from here, you can only turn left, get onto the roundabout, which you can go round on, and then come up this way and get back up to here. That's how you do a right turn. Or if you want to do a U-turn from there, you can go down onto the roundabout, and as you come back around, you can take this middle little slip road, which sends you off into the right turn here. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. As long as, you know, this type of thing doesn't happen, I love it so much. Doesn't cause any congestion or anything. It actually doesn't. It's actually grand. But anyway, enough chatting about that. That's the last time I'm going to be yapping on about the traffic in this game. Instead, we're going to yap on about Gusto Gelato. Gusto Gelato was relocated to here in the finale, and I'll show you why when we tour the other side of the train tracks there. For now, let me gan up a bit, because this is one of the original estates. We've got the UK estate over here, and the beautiful French estate over here. Look at that Corvey Street with all of those French buildings butted up against the road. It's so grand. Almost as grand as this park here. Oh, and yeah, this is the interchange. We've got Langdon Lane and Langdon Lane Bridge that goes across it. This is purely only for emergency services. Nobody but emergency services is allowed on this bridge. Or on this little bit of connecting piece to the Overlaboot. But we're not bloody touring over here just yet. Get back over the Langdon Lane Bridge of the pedestrian variety. Because we've got to keep the pedestrians off the road, you know. And it's underneath here, next to a little grafter's bus line. And you know what, while we're here, have a deeks. Look at all of those tourists. That's our out-of-town bus line connection there that connects onto the underground bit of the M2. The buses just chuck a quick U-V in the way they're gone, and there's a pathway there you can see by the zebra crossing that leads up our next to this big transformer. Oh, look, and glitching through the world. Look at all of those bloody slip roads. There's so many of them. We're going to have to get to them bloody soon, like. But as I was saying, you come up from there, enter into the park, and you're into the beautiful little French Quarter. I love that ship up there. Every time I see it, I bloody love it. So from here, you can go hour to the university, which you know what, while we're here, we'll do a quick dive hour. A quick one now, crazy, quickly underneath the train tracks. Don't worry about the world despawning. But look at all of those bloody slip roads. That's a spiral about to get you down, so you don't collide with the M2 that's underground already. Or any of its elaborate slip lanes. But then our university was built right on the edge, structurally supporting the railway bridge here, and we got maximum capacity in one of the last episodes, so we had to shift Gusto Gelato, which used to live here, and replace it with student housing, which did let us free up a little bit of pathway action over here, which was nice because it got a bit convoluted. But now it's safe as for pedestrians. You just get to the end, cross the road. You don't have to dangle your fears over the slip lane here to get around. But anyway, let's dive back over here, because I want to go straight this time, straight in to the fancy French Quarter. Now this is an old bit of the city, you can tell by the pedestrianised paths, at least for the most part. It's a bloody active city, we need some sort of transportation up here. But we have a grand old one-way system, apart from this one bit of road. I love how I mentioned the one-way system right then when I wasn't on it. But this whole French Quarter is a one-way system slash big old pathway for everybody to get through. You know, pick up a snag while you're at it. But if we pop through over to the other side, we're encroaching on the swamp area of Evergreen Swamp. If we do a little bit of a zoom out, we'll also be able to appreciate this French Quarter a little bit more. Look at all of that Frenchified fanciness. we've got 4 of these central courtyard style buildings knocking around. There's that one. There's of course this one here. This one here. But we did have to miss off a corner, and we did also get a one in here and all. But as you can see, we are now in Evergreen Swamp. Now, if you're caught on the fancy little fade bit, you may have noticed that there was some flooding very early on. And that ended up meaning that this bit of land here where I'm floating over, Evergreen Swamp, was just left as, well, a little mangrove swamp. We harvested wood, but that was that. Until we had enough money set aside to create the Grand Canal that you see here. And this Grand Canal keeps this whole bloody swamp from flooding. Well, that and the wonderful key work that our builder's done. This all works in harmony to keep everyone over here nice and safe and provide some stable foundations for the high pie and the sky rises. And we find ourselves once again at the railway line. Let's dip beneath it, crack along this central pathway here. Don't mind the hedges. That goes all the way up this entire bloody split of the city, connecting, well, both splits of the city. But before we get to the tippity top, I want to take a little right turn here, off the side, not going down, but going up, because we're back at the French Quarter. / Chinese Quarter. And one of my favourite things about this Chinese Quarter, not the old little mansion there, hanging about, proper old school, surrounded by little medium rises. It's this tiny little pencil tower. That is a proper squeezed in job. And yes, you may notice it's triangular. This may or may not be where I got the idea for the triangle estate. But anywho, let's crack on, because if I didn't, we'll be here all day. We've got high density commercial to protect the residents from the noise of the rail yard. And because we've got a nice water gap there, which isolates all noise, we've got our fancy pants Chinese commercial here, running along the railway there. And then we've got some fancy Japanese estates right off this little spit of land here with fancy bloody cul-de-sac. Look at that all the way around. Now, there is enough room on all of this for you to get a little kayak run. Oh, and here we are. The bloody triangle estate. This is my favourite little estate because it's a little bulgy triangle. Look at that bad lad. We got the massive tower on it with a cracking view for a swimming pool, I must admit. You can see the spiral about and everything. But behind this big old building, we've got the Vajag building, which stopped the high-rise expansion on the triangle estate here, but didn't stop modern developers from squeezing in some teeny little homes. And as you can see by the pedestrians, we have a wonderful pedestrian network, bridges connecting everything over, including up the tip of the little triangle estate, a bridge over the main central bit of ring road, because, well, it's a main central bit of ring road, we cannot have bloody people crossing it, you know? If I could, I'd make it a motorway. And I'm here on the right nut of the triangle boot estate, because I want to show you me fancy backwards road. Look at that. You get on that road, you're like, woo, what am I doing on this side of the road? I'm at the same side of me steering wheel, this is weird. But it's alright, because as soon as you get out of here, you're back to normal. Your steering wheel's on the correct side of the car again. But the reason we have this is so, on the little estate here, you can go all the way around in this direction without having to cross at this little point. As you can see, nobody crosses, there's no tyre wear. And this is one of our more recent additions, as you can tell by the masterpiece of a little oos round the side there with the parking. We had to have the big high-rise in. You've got to. And since we put the foundations in for this big bad lad, it allowed us to build even more high sky pie in the fancy rises. Our this side of the quay. But we can't talk about high sky in the pie rises without turning our heads round to this section of the bloody Splyt Cyty. And I'm not talking about the triangle estate. This bit here in the middle. This was our first testing ground for the fancy swamp foundations that we put in. In our northeast district, we started with these buildings here. We thought, let's build high, and it worked just fine. So then we thought, let's build higher, and that worked just fine. Now, just before we get onto the main road, we've got the Epicurean Gardens with fancy little leisure pier. Everybody loves a leisure pier, especially the Sims and City Skylines too. Now, thankfully, I'm a floating camera, so I don't have to go around. But they just spit out here, where they can go up. The big mental bit of motorway action here. Going back down. And this is where they can either live and or shop, because this is a mixed residential unit street, and it's all lined up, proper butted up against each other, full on UK terrace style. There's a lot of pence lands doing here, I'll say that for now. Everything is cheap. Whoa, where's the path went? Don't mind me, I'm just replacing a path that should be here. And back to the tour. This is my favourite little bit because of just how absolutely overcrowded it gets. We are full on chock-a-block. All the way up the back of this bloody French estate. And it's just purely so people can get back to where we began. Now you might be standing atop your ship thinking, "Aye, that's all well and good, MiGly, but have you cheated? Are there water sources in there?" And I say, no mate, let us come out of photo mode and unveil how wonderful me city's functioning. Not a single warning at all. Nothing in the slightest going wrong. Imagine if we had pedestrians crossing here. Like, for realsies though. That's why we do not have pedestrians crossing here. It's manic enough as is. Anywho, I was on about water sources. If we look at the water tool, there are no water sources over here. And let me just go to a water source so you know that, this map does have water sources. There's one. Look at it. Spilling out ever so slightly. We've got a bigger one over here. That most likely is the majority of the feed for doing here. We do also have seasonal water on as well. So, that's why the keys get a tad large at places. Because believe it or not, when you reclaim half of your river with dodgy new build estates and the likes, it tends to annoy the river, and the river retaliates by flooding on you. Well, the reason we're following this key, not only to show you the old fancy bloody ship over there, and the sunken ship that got lost in the currents that bring you all the way underneath here. Because underneath here, you can see we've got an actual full-blown canal with minimal, let's hear it again, minimal lighting bugs. Now this canal, it spits you out right under where that big fire was earlier. Actually, no, that's a different fire, isn't it? Yep. A different crash, same bit of road. But anywho, it spits you out right under here. You can see it goes from quay to bridge, back to quay. And I'm talking about the road, not the pedestrians, of course. And that's how we get our water around. Some of these little connections here, they're bridges, they're not quays. And then that allows the water to circulate absolutely everywhere through here. I am quite proud of me little quay city, like. It's a proper multicultural paradise. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's dive in to the Triangle Estate. So as I touched on earlier, I found this building nice and easy to fit in, and I was like, what if I could do it again? And I found there was a big, massive version of that building, there was a medium version of that building, and then there's that little wee stick there. So yeah, this happened. We reclaimed all the way to our tiles. I haven't even introduced this at all. Goes all the way up to our city limits here. Well, all of the keys go up to our city limits. We have fully, and I mean fully, encroached on our city limits, which is, well, the whole point of this challenge, wasn't it? So then, as I was saying, I just built a lovely little triangle estate with pathway connections going in. It's a lovely little calm area to live. There's so many people living here that, like I say, even the shit wanted to live here, but there was no more room, so they parked it on the top. There's a lovely little tuber park there for you to either live or play with your kids and that. You've got easy access to anywhere in the city from this point. And look, there is a bit of a rubbish piling up issue right at the bottom here because there's one or two flats and it's right at the end of the route. But to make you feel better about it, we do have a fancy little design on our cul-de-sac portal here. And then if we follow the pedestrians through this path, we find the big ship. This is purely a bit of decoration because if we go all the way past this 30-odd thousand capacity elementary school we've got here. I'll explain that in a bit, don't worry. We've got Ye Owl Dockyard. That is what it's called, isn't it? Dockyard and Lounge. Well, that is not the name of the building. That's where you can get your Go-Nut Donuts. There it is on the other side, the Dockyard Lounge Park. So I had to have a big ship hour there. Otherwise, what's the point of having the dockyard and the shipping containers, you know? And you know what? While it's in view, let's go hour and have a look at our berm protected. You can see the massive berm we have to put on for the floods we get. Beautiful spiral about interchange. So this is the way into the city. It's got a nice connection for emergency services, buses, whatever, if they want to do a cheeky U-turn because they didn't realise they were coming out of the city to get back in. You can see there's a copper using it right there. You go down into the tunnel, don't mind the water, that's just a free council wash for your car. And then next to that tunnel, we've got the exit tunnel, which is very similar, apart from it comes out instead of going in. But it splits off straight away, so if you want to go left, you go left. Simple as, away you go. If you want to go right, you just real quickly firstly go underneath the spiral about, get spat out there, and away you go once again. Peace or piss. And if you don't even want to bother with the spiral about, you just go underneath. There's plenty of headroom, it never gets flooded thanks to the berm, and there's only the occasional pedestrian knocking a boot on it. But of course, we're over here for the actual spiral about interchange. And the best way to show you the spiral about interchange is to, well, show you the spiral about interchange on what is probably one of the more fun vehicles to do it on. Imagine being on the motorbike, you just get your lean angle, you might be able to keep it absolutely perfect, just watch out for the odd column here and there, and just absolutely rip it up here. Just watch yourself when you get to the top though, you don't want to be ripping it too hard and gone full Evel Knievel over the river. So now that you're fully acquainted with the beautiful, majestic spiral about there, it's finally time to go on our the glass crown and show you Terrace Hills. And you might have an idea of why it's called Terrace Hills. And if you don't, it's due to all of these terraces here on the hills. You see how this is a big hill and also a big old terrace estate. Terrace Hills? It's how we name things. We keep it simple over here. But yeah, now Terrace Hills is an old Victorian terrace estate. Proper, lined up as you might expect. And we've had to adapt it into a brand new way of living. And to fully show that off, we need to properly come out of photo mode. Like I said, don't worry about the icons in the warnings, they're not real, as long as you don't believe they're real. But the first way we built around that is by introducing a one-way system, everyone's favourite kind of system. But this isn't some dodgy little, oh, you can only go this way or that way. It's like, best explained if we pop underground, because if we go back here, you'll see we've got an underground motorway, or three, but this is the one we care about at the moment. This little bit of slip road sends you into this Terrace Hills area, and then now that you're in here, you're naturally only going in one direction. And I'll tell you why there's never any traffic here a bit later on, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. But it is absolutely wonderful. You never see any traffic around here. You just go straight in. We've built proper slip roads on and off here. Keep the traffic flowing, keep the pedestrians off it. And we even designed this fancy emergency services lanes all our Terrace Hills to keep the fire brigade easily accessing these terraces because we've not lost a single house. Not a single house has been lost to fire. And that's thanks to our emergency services lanes all over the shop. Let's start at the roundabout, gone across, and you can see what I mean. You can start seeing now, it just goes in and in and in. And you've got full priority when you come in here. And like I was saying, this emergency services lane, it extends all the way around, so it goes up the top here, splits off. It even has a tidy little U-turn for emergency services to quickly access, say, these houses here. Otherwise, with the one-way system, they'd have to actually exit Terrace Hills, get on the motorway, all the way over the spiral about, just to come back in. But if they didn't need to do that, they can go all the way down here, dedicated turning lanes, the whole whack, go down this bit of street, and this is where it gets fun right here. Once you get to the bottom here, you've got your own emergency service lane. Once again, don't mind the pylons, we just work with it. The drivers are canny round here. You can either go straight out there, or merge on to a back alley highway. This was one of the later modifications were made. We had to tear out one of those back alleys in the Victorian terrace estates. We turned it into a big old motorway and then popped a pedestrian bridge on top. And of course, we have to have the emergency service lanes right by the old pub there. And while we're up here, why didn't I go and show you the old historic terrace that's been gentrified? So a lot of these buildings had to be cleared for our motorways and everything. But these houses here, they stuck around. And for that, we rewarded them with parks, bait, and a university right across the street. Now this is one of the more detailed areas of the city here. I even have a fancy flyby that I've done in an episode just for this. And I think I've done an alright job of cleaning up this mess here. It's just a massive hole and I think it looks bloody fantastic. And oh yeah, it's probably best not to worry about those extra 2 very steep ramps at the moment. We will get there. And here's another little example of what we've done to save the old road and everything. This little bit of one-way road is actually part of the original road, hence the terraces, even if they do get a bit scary on your doorstep there from time to time. But to accommodate two-way traffic, we had to do something drastic. So we put in a mad little motorway tunnel, which if I get this just right, you can actually see. There it is. It's really difficult to see for absolutely no reason, but there you go. Proper fancy bit of motorway tunnel with slip lanes everywhere. But across from these old terraces, we've got the bookshop and the college, or college if you want to say it properly. This college is apparently over capacity, but it's not full, so I'm not concerned about it. And this is a tour of the map, so it's not getting upgraded. But as you can see here, we've just hijacked the old straight road 2-way number and just made it a 1-way number and connected our new road onto it. It does create a bit of a dodgy little U-turn, and yes, we could do something about that. Like say pop a U-turn in there. But the issue with that is, some of these buildings here are naturally zoned, and it will knock them off. Well, while we're doing this way, why don't we crack along to this little corner of the old Terrace estate, gone all the way round past the new build estate. This was one of the finale specials. Squeezing in new build estate into little derelict plots of land. And then if we could, pop some helipads down just to help our hospital. Because our hospital... Oh, hello, helicopter. I see your shadow. Where are you? There it is. The helicopter's coming into land. And I imagine, if I go to speed 3, it'll be taken straight back off again. There it goes. Yeah, the helicopter service and boat service in general are very busy here in Splyt Cyty. And I mean, it might have something to do with the fact that we need another 30 or 40,000 worth of elementary capacity here. But we have the biggest hospital available, and it's just absolutely ram-packed. It's got custom little pedestrian pathways going all the way across the busy roads to keep the ambos flowing, you know. And this pathway, once again, goes over the top of this road and connects in to our mega pathway. It goes all the way down that side of the terrace, all the way over this side of the terrace here, crosses over this bit of the main road, and then goes all the way over. But then once you come off the path, you're presented with a lot of choices. Down to the road, down underground. Oh, what's that under there, like? Over to the left, which we will get to, but not before we take this right exit and show you me brand new housing estate that we fit in between the high residency housing estate on the right and the existing housing estate on the left. How do you like me fancy little housing estates that are just absolutely squeezed in? And I mean, if I zoom out a bit, you'll see gardens back to back. It is absolutely squeezed in here. And you know what I just spied? Ye shouldn't have a crossing. Neither should ye. But now that we've explored that bit of the estate, let's go on our here to what was one of the last things to be built. This hour pass system that gets you over the main roads, connects you into the middle if you want. You can even go on a chuck quick left and go out to the firehouse / hospital if you fancy it. Or you can go on right, go on across, and this is the best bit, look. There's a path underneath there as well. Where could that be, Gavin? But from here, this brings you nicely either down around the palm trees there, or over here to do a little bit of a schneck doon jobby. And if you want to, you can even go back up to the main road. Honestly, there's paths everywhere. It's one of the proudest things on this little map is all of the paths everywhere, and we really haven't even scratched it. Pedestrian quayside here with fancy pants northeast high residency buildings on all the way round. We even have a tidy little one-way system to squeeze in some more of these buildings here. And you can see the old houses here, including the Atkin Palmer mansion. And you can tell this is an old building because look how much further down it is compared to the roundabout when they had to raise it to put these big old foundations in here. Oh, and this is where the path that has the palm trees on it spits you out. Right down here. And like I say, we've got a tidy little one-way system. We've got parks everywhere. Everyone is happy in the city, and I mean everyone, including the people that are going in this pathway here, which we just can't see. And there is one thing to mention about this little estate here. Not everybody's happy about it. These waterfront property havers here, they used to have, well, property on the waterfront before we expanded, foundationed, and built up. So yeah, now these people aren't happy, but look, they pay a lot of tax, but all of those people together pay more tax. So, I don't care. Toodaloo, Richies! While we're down here next to the Atkin Palmer mansion, why didn't we whiz our way all the way up to these low-res, high-residency UK special buildings, passing our fancy French water towers, because we needed a bit more water, and they don't cause any noise pollution. So up here in this corner, it's where all the poors live. So they live in these poor houses here. Look, we haven't even bothered to put parks or anything in for them. Like, the path and infrastructure is a bit lackluster here. Did we really need to invest in some sort of safety barrier for those poors? I don't think so, you know what I mean. And look, if you thought I was joking about the safety barriers, think again. I think these people need to know how to look after themselves in this big bad world, and Nemia's gonna be looking out for you. Just watch you even fall onto the motorway. But yeah, now this is where all of our low-income housing is. Nice cheap rents. And then because I'm British, I got to put all the flats down. So we've got a full row of British flats up here. So if you're chilling, you can see views for miles. And I mean like views for miles. Have a look at this bloke's balcony view here. Not only is this a top floor balcony, it's a corner balcony. So you get this view. You can see some terraces down there. And you get this view of our terrace hills. Who wouldn't want to pay $3 a week to live here? Especially when you could just pay £7.50 for a small coffee and enjoy the view from this rooftop terrace up here, you know what I mean? I'd much rather do that. Especially when you look at the prices of those businesses doing there on the hill. Apparently it costs a lot to live there because it's an unstable hill and they have to keep buying trees and bushes to keep it all up. But I say, don't build a house on the top of a hill. That's really unstable if you don't want to have to pay loads of money keeping your house on top of said hill. And not everybody did succeed in that. There was a drop, and 2 of the terraces came down. Nah, I do love this area, and while we're here, I love this bloody oval about! It's got pedestrian access underneath it. It's got fancy plants all over the shop. It's even got the shortcut path, which you can see pedestrians are using, because if I didn't, they would just tear up the grass. Now, there's a pathway through there. Don't mind if you can't see it. You're just a muggle, and you're not really supposed to. There's another one there, and this is the muggle entry here, so you can see we've got a nice little pathway where you can walk through and get into your flat. Oh, this is actually quite nice. I've never went down here with all of these bushes, but it is nice. So through this wall takes you underneath the servo, which, by the way, I think has moved very little since it was first put in like episode 3. You'll have to check for yourselves during the fancy fade bits. How much does this servo move? We even kept it in place when we put the pedestrian tunnel in. The pedestrian triangle about. Now, this is where we were earlier with the old terrace estate. But this is part of the pathway that sends you underneath the old lane. Gets you up onto the fancy little bridge there, or out the slip lanes and down into the uni estate / gone under the train and get to your bus. And that is pretty much everything over here in Terrace Hills. Overground anyway. The only other things I want to show you and highlight, look at me fancy little new build housing estate there on the cul-de-sac. And then if we flip around, you can see even more new build fanciness. This used to be a motorway, believe it or not. A little motorway connection between these 2 bits of roads. The developers bought up the land. The council were buzzing. They no longer had a motorway going through their bloody back alley there. And we squeezed in loads of houses wherever we could. And if we couldn't squeeze a house, we popped a park in there. Now, I do like this mad little estate here. It connects up. You've got parks. You've got a pathway going around the big fancy detached house. And it gets you straight onto the college. But that's only half the estate. The other half of the estate slips underneath this pedestrian road here. Which, look, this pedestrian section is mint. Look, there's even another little wizards and witches only access down there. It's so good, the pedestrian network here. I am mildly biased, but it is so good. Because it's so good, you get access straight down to your housing estate with cul-de-sacs, the lot. We squeezed all of these in here, including some custom little walls and gardens to line up with the path, because of course, that was just sticking out onto the road directly. There's another custom bit of garden. There's another custom bit of garden that's went ahead and deleted itself with people walking through. Didn't mind that. This is a really stretched out roundabout to make it flat on one side, as you can see. So pedestrians and vehicles, they get a bit how you gan with where they gan. Oh, and do you remember over there when I was there, I could have just put a tiny little U-turn on to help things out. I did over there, look. Tiny little right turn. Because that's a one-way system. You can't be sending traffic up the one-way system, you know? Yeah, like I say, I love these houses with the custom walls. It's like, look at the tiny little garden. You got your table and chairs. Honestly, this is probably a somewhat realistic British garden. And then to top off the largest new build estate that we done in the finale, we got the fancy pants riverfront properties. Look at all of these. Detached houses with garage. See that garage there? That would usually be someone else's house, but it's not. It's all your house. That is, like, fairy tale shit right there. And for having so many of them close together, like, this is how you know we're playing a video game and this isn't real life. But behind these fancy pants detached housing, we're going straight back to semi-detached over here. And these are the types of houses that have got the doors on the side. That's how much space we needed over here. I mean, just look at old mate's house. He's proper on the corner there. That would usually just be someone's garden, but not nowadays. No, it's someone's house. Enough teasing. Let's get out of this camera mode. Let's get out of this overground mode and show you Terrace Hills' big secret. Look at this! It's got loads and loads of Victorian tunnels that we have expanded into parking for our citizens, so they don't have to flood any of the surface level roads. They just park underground. Use our amazing path network. This is where all of these paths that were going underground were leading. Straight into a bit of parking. We've got a parking exit just for this high density residential area. I never even went through this area. Right, one last thing on the surface and then we'll get straight back underground. At the top here, next to a Jormal Elementary School and with UK suburban shops, with the fancy little playground there that you can go around as part of that pathing system. So, you know what? Speaking of the pathing system, that guns right over the top here, as you can see, perfectly over the top of the corner of the walls. I popped loads of flowers on here, made this hillside deed pretty. I actually really like it. It's just flowers and bushes, but I bloody love it. You've got a little bit of underground access. I thought the underground access was there. Is this not the underground access? Am I lost? Oh, there's the underground access. The underground access is beside the cop shop, which is why I was over here. This area here is the German area. This is where all of our German-inspired estates are. As you can see, we've got the German mixed residential on the left. We've got the German residential on the right, the cop shop, the elementary school, and when you get to the very end, we have the German high school. And this high school has a huge capacity, something like 10 or 15 million. But now, whenever I'm talking about massive capacities in schools, it's because I've got these education blocks on. Like, say, 25,000 capacity just on this education block here. So you can see the tunnels, they just go up and down. They've got little loops on. Fairly simple. We've connected some paths on, widened them, make sure that they could accept parking. And one of the great things about underneath there, because it's so old and underground, there's no speed limit. You can go as fast as you want. And why didn't we do this backwards? The way you get out of those areas is by these rather steep little exit ramps here that blast you in with the back alley highway, and then you're going straight out underneath the city. And then once you've been blasted onto the underground motorway, you can either go down this spiral, and if you really, really want to, you can turn off the spiral. That's the one just beneath with there. I'll follow it because it leads and connects up. There you can see the connection. back in Evergreen Swamp. So that's how you can quickly nip across that direction. Because, once again, I don't want to use this bridge here. And yeah, now look, while we're here, let's just have a look at this intersection. There you go. That's the intersection in 70% of its glory. I have to use multiple angles to show you. But as I was saying, to actually show you this, I have to get down to something like this angle. Have a look at this, man. There are 3 layers of motorway right here. On the surface, the actual underground bit, there's the underground bus terminal there, don't forget. Then we've got slip roads. Then we've got a slip road going underneath that slip road. And all of this happens, once again here, within our city limits. Look at that. I'm pushed over as far as I can go. And any of these little areas here where they go out, I checked with our anarchy on, and I learned that you can go about halfway over without going outside your city limits, which, yeah, seems fair. You should be able to go halfway across before you get out your limit. Now, here's another crazy bit of motorway. Bear with us. What the Nah, we're not having that, we are not having that. If we take this 7 slip road here, you'll see that that is on the very bottom. We now have a motorway going on top of it. We have a motorway on top of that. And we have the actual Hills motorway here going on top of that. It is a 4-layer sandwich of delightfulness there. And yeah, if you want to come out of the city, you're just gone straight out like that. Proper now to Mada touch. Can't really say the same for coming in. Definitely a bit of a Mada touch. But now that I've definitely explained every little slip road here and you understand it intuitively at this point, you'll know that we're obviously going to start coming out here to get into Terrace Hills. And we put a split, the left lane there that splits off. Both of those are brand new, or at least 3 or 4 episodes old. They gone underneath here and stick you directly in to the old underground Victorian parking tunnels. The tunnels are Victorian, the parking aspect of it we put in, of course. But the lack of speed limit, that's Victorian as well. But with the tour of the Living Split taking about as long as I thought this whole episode would take to record, let's dive in to the thing that connects the Living Split with the Grafters Split. Now this beast of a motorway here, we call the Hills motorway, in brackets, M2. It is a nod to the actual M2, Hills motorway, in Sydney, because part of that motorway has bus lanes. In the middle here, it's a 3-laner, 2 normal operating lanes, 1 bus lane. Or at least it was the last time I was driving on it. And the Hills motorway, as well as having the public transport lanes in the middle, have bus stops in the middle of the motorways as well. In the middle. And they're usually accessed either by bridges over the top or tunnels underneath because, well, motorways and pedestrians, they don't really go hand in hand. Because they drive on the left and the bus's doors are on the left, because, that's where the path usually is in left-hand drive countries, doesn't really work out very well when you're on the right-hand side of the road, does it? So you have to do a quick cross-hour as the bus is about to demonstrate. Perfect timing. I really couldn't have done that if I tried, And then you know what? I don't see a better way of getting out of the Grafters Split to show you how it all works than taking one of our Grafters line buses. All a wee hour there. And you can see how bloody efficient it is and all. And there we have, looming, the Grafters Split. But before we delve into the Grafters Split, we've got to get this bus all the way back because, well, I really didn't do any sort of justice to the whole split system on the living side of the motorway. But on this side of the motorway, this split looks bloody beautiful. That is a reasonable little cross hour. And then your doors are on the correct side for the path. But before we disembark, let's have ourselves a fancy pants from the ground up feared adventure in Grafters Split. And how mental is the Grafter's Split just coming up from the ground? And just bear with us, I don't know why we're at shin level on these cameras. I tried clicking many different sims. I either end up at actual foot level or shin/hoop level. But I just wanted to show you how chock-a-block our paths are, that we've got splits in the paths and everything like that. Because once again, the Grafter's Split, we have a massive pedestrian tunnel system. And as you can see by all the pedestrians using it, they bloody love it. Like I say, old mate, yeah, they can go up to this little fork that brings them up to ground level or splits off, connects up any which way you want. Proper interconnected little webs of paths here. You either go up to the little dog park there, you can out to this high rise, or you can take any of these three arms and go to various high rises throughout the city. And that path slips all the way up and down over the top underneath these slip roads here. It's absolutely wonderful how much this is all crammed in. And don't worry, we'll be getting to the rest of the things in here. But before we get to those things, let's explore this little offshoot here, which goes all the way up, spits you out beside the old American diner for this little bit of estate here. Get your business done. But if we got all the way back to the bus stops, instead of going left, if you go straight, you get spattered onto this alleyway, which of course you can use to go straight into these businesses here, or double back on yourself, come up a wee bit, connect onto this path here. Now you're underground in your big wide pedestrian key path, going underneath the wonderful expressway where you get to split off, go any which direction you want, to get to any different side of this expressway you need, without crossing over it. And then now from here, it's up to you. You've got to deal with it. But of course, with the Grafter's Split, you've got to start with this little bit of motorway here. This was the OG connecting piece of motorway that went all the way up. You can see it through the high rises there and connects onto the rest of the map and outside connections. For the longest time, we had a roundabout right here. That was how you got in to this Grafter's Split here. It was horrendous. It caused all the traffic in the world. Not to be helped by the fact that we had a roundabout about here that connected up into the farms, and a third roundabout about here, right on the edge of the map, that connected purely to these water slopers. So after way too many episodes, we finally, now let's hop onto one of these cars. But as I was saying, we finally upgraded this bit of motorway, sent it underground. And once you get underground here, you can on some adventures. I didn't check where old mate was going. They're going left. That is not into Grafter's Split. That is going onto the M2. But which way are they going on the M2? They're in the left, which means, I believe, they're heading towards the Living Split. Now, because this is a secondary motorway, it has to give way to the actual Grafter's Split exit. A Grafter's Split exit, which is bloody backed up. What are you doing backing up, pal? Sort yourselves out, will yous? There should be no reason for this being backed up like. It's a very simple just don't pick your way out and I bet you the slip road's backed up. Well, there is occasional issues with traffic due to slip roads giving way where you could easily get out there. Mate, you could easily go, you get 7 cars out there, go, put your foot down. Yeah, so because people don't put their foot down and get up to speed, we get a bit of backup going on here. And the issue with this one in particular backing up is once it backs up the roundabout, it backs up everything over the side of the industrial split. But again, now back on track. As you come into the Grafter's Split, you need to know it's a proper place of industry and offices. That's we'll come to that. That's why we've got the train here. And as well, just to let you know that we are a proper beastie civilization and we have helicopters. So as you drive in, helicopters just idling, just so you know. And then, of course, Golden Gate Bridge with rocket on top. There's no space centres. There's nothing about that in Space City, in Split City. But we did find a cracking deal on Marketplace for a rocket, and we knew exactly where to put it. And don't ask us how we've got the Golden Gate support. We don't know. All we know is that this helicopter keeps it safe. And who would want to steal such a magnificent art installation anyway? Look how perfectly centred that is. Didn't take us ages at all, and it definitely is perfectly centred, isn't it, Space Rocket? Space Rocket says, why aye it is, MiGly. Show them the planes and the fancy slip roads. Ah, right then I will. So I got some planes knocking about here, just to maybe drum up some interest in an airport. Maybe we can buy some tiles, slap an airport in. But, well, that's not allowed, is it? So it's basically just a blue ball me citizens into thinking they might have a bloody airport coming soon. But slip roads wise, this one in the middle here, the one that's coming up and connecting on, that is a slip road, which is somewhere on this side of the motorway. There it is. That's this bad lad. As you can see, it guns under, it chucks a quick UE, and then comes back around and gets back up to speed right here. And then I've got these centre lanes for lane changers. If you're just going straight through here, you don't need to change lanes. You just stay to the left or right, and you're straight through. If you need to change lanes, you get up here, you swap your lanes. Happy days, you're sorted. Now, this bit of emergency services route is for U-turns only by emergency services as well, because we have in Grafters Splyt our very own police station, hospital, and firehouse, as well as a fancy pants overpass. Look at that bloody overpass. You can get trucks underneath there now to matter, and it connects you straight down. It even doubles up as a bit of a drive-through here. If you want a bit of a coffee, you just get one launched at you at the window. And then from the little overpass, you just gone straight over, down yonder way, or if you're a cop or emergency services, chuck a UE on here, and away you go. And as you can see, it works perfectly. 99% of the time, apart from when things happen, which we're not talking about anymore, so it's all good. But this is where we started out. We went full industry over here. We even had a big cool burning power plant where this big massive structure is, the tallest little scrape around here. But we cleaned up our act. We made this side of the tracks farms and offices only, no pollution, just money making. But you can probably tell by our 4-lane alleyways and things we've got over here, we are a bit squeezed for space here, to say the very least. And that's because all of the permits and land regulations were in, the roads are in. We haven't been able to upgrade any of these roads here. All we've been able to do is chop off the odd connection, replace it with a path, and make a lot of it one-way systems. I mean, it works. We kept it low density around that dodgy little area, and we bumped the high density everywhere else, so hopefully it calms down a bit by the time it gets to these roads. But yeah, now we done a fairly clever little one-way system that prioritises the gore alleyways here all the way out. Basically, so you can gan on the other pass and get out of here. Or down here and around, which is where we finally had enough space to upgrade the roads. And this is where we start our expressway. Not a motorway, an expressway. But expressways shouldn't have any sort of crossings, any sort of intersections, nout like that. So that's why we've got proper grade separated. Well, I suppose it's an intersection. No at-grade intersections on expressways. That's why we gone under to gone straight, we gone left to gone up an hour to the right, and we even included a tidy little U-turn purely for that expressway there. Just because I love me Sims so much. The only things that we should be zoning on here are like desperately needed special things like this recycling centre, which even has an upgrade in the middle of the bridge there, man. Look at that. You couldn't have squeezed that in any closer if you tried. And trust us, I did. Like I said, this majestic expressway itself doesn't have any zoning. It's purely for vehicles to get about. And this is one of my favourites. Because in the finale, I had to replace the landfill I had here with a recycling centre, which is larger. So I had to, like, put this alleyway in here, get some actual road connections on for it. But I managed to keep the whole expressway going over the top. Yes, it's a bit steep down here, but look, if you're driving around here and you're whinging about it being a bit steep, I mean, you've got bigger problems anyway, because you're literally phasing through the thing. But yeah, now this actually genuinely fits. That fence should be deleted, but it keeps popping back. I'm not blocking any access. There's legit road access down there. It's not my fault if they choose not to use it. But thanks to our expressway here, we are able to have fancy pants industrial estates, super efficient like. This is a nice little one-way system with a little U-turn there if you need to. You're gonna run, there's some cul-de-sacs. It's so nice. Peaceful little industrial estate, just don't breathe in too heavily and you'll be fine. I do like this though. This little road here goes under and over the expressway. Of course, under here technically provides access for that little recycling plant, even though they clearly don't use it. But it goes over the slip roads that go underneath and connect onto the M2 and connects onto this fancy pants little bit of industrial estate right next to this solar farm. But as you can see, just industry, making money over here. We've got pedestrian paths connecting up. Everything's tickety-boo. I even added a second connection from the other bit of the expressway, which we hope we haven't got there yet. So this is a proper connected piece, this little bit here. It even goes back onto the expressway there. It's so good. It's absolutely grand. And then I'll real quickly show you this bit of the expressway. It just cuts in between the industry, goes underneath the harbour there, / into the harbour. This is purely for harbour traffic only, of course. But it's a harbour, it's going to be busy. It may as well have direct Go Expressway links on it. But back to the solar farm, you can chuck a left off here. This is where the majority of our special industry is. That's a special industry, that's a special industry. This is an access road for special industry. I didn't want to do a whole road, so tidy little alleyway, works perfect. We've got another little access road for special industry down here, straight onto the quay. Oh, look at those waves coming. That's why we've got a big old quay wall here. We need to keep those waves at bay, because this was once a beach. Just simply a beach, and it was at that level. We've raised it up quite a bit. But yeah, this is just another little industrial road. Oh, until it disappears down and joins the expressway underneath the farm, the plants, the harbours. And then, of course, you kind of have a fancy expressway without a fancy hotel, and you kind of have a fancy hotel without a big playing attraction next to it. It's raised up on blocks, so it's got clearance for any big trucks that come around here. We're not crashing into anything. I mean, realistically, the reason it's on block is because it was crashing into the horse garage here. But we didn't talk about that. What we can talk about the horses, though, and the 4 crematoriums we have over here. And real quickly, there's a crematorium over here. Just servicing everywhere is a little bit of a 5th extra. Keep all the bodies coming. Once again, direct access to the expressway. That's the main thing with these crematoriums. Give them direct access to get out. Like old mate just gets on the motorway here. Underneath, and he's straight out onto the M2, picking up the dead bodies from over there. Now, I am kind of proud of myself for squeezing some industry in here. I believe that's special industry there that we're looking at as well. A bit of onshore, offshore action. But I managed to squeeze an alleyway in between the crematorium and the industry there for some bonus industry run the back. That's about it for Grafters Split. We're mining some rocks. It's the only resource we've got to mine, so we may as well. The expressway is beautiful. Oh, we got the big double arch bridge. Who doesn't love that? And it is proper nice and tidy all the way round. At least it was. It used to be. It used to be a bit tidier than that. I'm not entirely sure what happened. Yep, nice and tidy all the way around. Just like these keys are. Now, these keys are actually nice and tidy because they're, well, halfway between these things, so I'm not outside the city limits. And one last thing before we delve into a proper fancy pants little top doing fancy fade angle fanciness. Let's check out our full UK country style intersection here, look. Left turns only, unless you're coming this way and then you can go and straight. But look, no U-turns allowed over here. Left and left keeps everything flowing nicely. But this is our little money-making split here. Of course, we've got the farms either side. And then we've got high-density offices all the way, except for in the middle where we got some low-density shenanigans. I love that little middle bit not being high-density. But at the bottom, we've got our fancy little high-rise over here. One special building. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our fancy American diner under the railway there. But with us showing you all of that, it's definitely time to delve in to a top-down, both sides of the Splyt Cyty, speedy up, fancy angle fanciness. After that fanciness, we officially have 150,204 residents. The last 3 I just made up off the top of my head, hoping it would magically go to that number while I was saying it. But yeah, 150,000 population, not in me starting tiles, in half of me starting tiles. The other half's dedicated purely out of the stinky places, polluting everywhere. But I am very happy with that. 150,000 people in half your starting tiles. That's mint. And with that, we have nigh on perfect roads. Don't worry about the fact that it's rather difficult for the service vehicles to get to the Hills 2 motorway with spiral about interchange every time. So sometimes you go fast, sometimes you go slow on there. But generally, the rest of these roads are like absolutely tickety-boo. Really, really green all the way around. Our traffic is surprisingly fantastic. Again, I don't really care. I care a lot, but I can't do anything about it, so I don't care about this shite. But you would expect the motorway before an exit to be a little bit congested anyway. But look at our actual all the way through here. We're big chillin'. Like I said, the only reason we have problems here is because there's problems there. Everywhere else, we're just big chillin'. Like, it's red, but look, cars are moving past and they bother. It's just really heavily trafficked. Yeah, for the most part, you zoom into one of these orange streets, traffic's moving. What more could you ask for than traffic moving along there? Same goes for Grafters Splyt. Even the red bits, there's traffic moving. It's just very heavily trafficked little bit of slip road, you know? Because you've got, well, multiple slip roads. Those two that go underneath from the expressway, they spit out here. You've got that little slip road that comes up and connects up. It's a busy little area, this, you know? And honestly, this is probably one of the better views to see the actual full motorway system. And it's not that bad to drive on. You tend to get through, now it's a matter. But you can see all of the layers and everything there. Where you can see the owled bit. The clever one-way systems have worked. It's really smooth flowing there. I'm really, really happy with this, you know. All the roads you'd expect to be busy are busy. They're all flowing just fine. It's really well done, this whole thing. And here we go. Let's see. Can you see all of the layers of the roads a bit easier there? You can at least see 3 layers there. What about Rundia? Can you see the 4th layer? Maybe. It's still a bit hectic. It's just colour-coded hecticness. It's this slip lane here. I can't show you because the mouse is off. It's this slip lane underneath this building here. I can't really show you it. That one there. The one that I'm crossing now. That's the 4th layer. That goes underneath a lot of this. This bit of the 7 slip roads that, once again, I can't hear me touching. I forgot about Dink Lane. Oh, yes. I'm sorry, Chorch Inn. The Chorch Inn was like the motorway side pub. And it just, well, now it's proper fancy in the French Quarter here, but it hasn't moved. This is where it was built, and it's stayed here the whole time while everything's been built up around it. And while I'm zoomed out, we're electricity, spot on. Water and sewage, spot on. Healthcare, absolutely spot on. I'll just show you this real quickly once we stop lagging. This red street here is Berm Boulevard. That's where the berm is. And Berm Boulevard has the canal underneath it. There's actually no houses or road access to that at all. Everything's switched off on it, so that's why it's got really bad healthcare access, because you can't access the road. And the reason it's called Berm Boulevard is this is where the flood berm went. It followed this exact line. That's why it sort of snakes around like that. The berm went all the way around there and connected up with the back of this French street here. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned this, but I adore the fact that this French street is called Florence Street. I'll just say that. I haven't renamed this. I just think it's a little bit humorous. Oh, and here we are. This is how we usually are when we don't have loads of traffic knocking about here. You can see the traffic starting to build up here, so we're going to end up with loads of waiting for hearses signs. It's just like a cycle I go through on the city. But this is about as bad as it usually gets. We end up waiting for garbage to be picked up over here. Everything else just running tickety-boo. Well, as I was doing earlier, let's quickly go through all of these so you can see just how fantastic our whole system is. We do have enough processing ability. We just need no traffic and we'll be fine. Fire and rescue, spot on once again. Police, spot on. Education, barely hanging on in there with elementary school. The college says it has, like, more people than it needs, but if we have a click on it, it's not full, so I'm not upgrading it. And also, how good's the map there? Nothing over here. Everything over here. There'll be a couple of times that'll happen. Oh, transportation. I haven't even went through that. Let me show you the bus lines. That's the bus lines. The Grafters line, eastbound and westbound, they just go along the M2, doing their thing. And then the rest of these, they just connect to outside lines. Simple. Our post is perfect. Don't mind that none of the new build estates that we built have post offices. Just don't worry about it. And also don't worry about the fact that it's in the red. And this city is based before internet and telecommunications, so that's why we didn't have any of them. Doesn't stop them being over the moon happy though, and we'll get to that soon. We're not quite there yet. You can see, well, leisure's alright. We've got some parks around the industrial estate to keep the grafters happy. We've got a fair few parks around here. I was going to put parks in whenever houses burnt down, but not one house is burnt down, so Terrace Hills in the middle, a bit lacking on parks, but you literally just need to go either side of your terrace, and there's so many parks. Stop being lazy. Tourism's whatever. People can come and have a look at the big ships and rockets and Golden Gate supports if they want, but we won't tell them how it got there. That's the outside connections for those of you that care. That's all of the residential in one area. Most of the commercial over there as well. All of the industry on one half of the split. And all of the offices on the other half of the split. How good is that? That's the splits of Splyt Cyty. There's 4 splits upon 2 cities that are split in half. So yeah, like 4 quarters, all that stuff, you know. Building levels spot on. We've got a lot of level 5s. A lot of them are manually placed. The rest of them are just naturally upgraded because it's a fantastic place to live and work anyway. Look at the land value. Every single house in Terrace Hills has an astronomical land value. Look at that, man. It's off the charts. And you can see, not a single red company. Everyone's really profitable. Now, most of them are profitable. Oh, and here we're gone. Natural resources. I don't have any natural resources inside of my city limits. I had a little bit of natural over here. Actually, that's probably the most fertile land I have available to me at like 9,000 there. Because if we go to where I actually set up my farms, you can see it's like 3,000 to 4,000 land fertility there. Comes all the way down to 2,000 down here and that. It's bloody terrible. Because I'm supposed to be doing me farming up here where it's all 10,000. And like I say, I had to properly make do without any natural resources. And I thought I'd done alright. Hey, look, if there was fish, I wouldn't even be able to get them. The fish are all the way out here. As you can see, once again, this split of Splyt Cyty coming into effect. Only half of the split is actually populated, and it's very densely populated at that. There we go, happiness. A bunch of happy people. Very, very happy people. They're starting to get a bit upset about the mail service, but everything else is keeping them hunky-dory. All the households are wealthy as. What more could you ask for? Not much in the way of workplace availability, but we've maxed out with town now. Look, we're just hovering about 150,000. Was the plan all along? Oh, and here we go. Look, air pollution. Not a single bit of air pollution where the people are living. It is clean and fresh over here. And even more so, due to the fact that we buried the motorway, so any of those nasty little fumes are getting spat out elsewhere. But speaking of nasty little fumes, yeah. This is where all of the pollution is happening. And mostly, by the looks of things, from this one bloody oil refinery here, all of the pollution is just bothering the industry. Over the other side of the motorway there, barely any pollution. We're just big chillin'. Nice clean air. Ground pollution? Oh, we're done alright. This used to be heavily polluted, but we've left it long enough that it's not polluted anymore. That is grand, that, like. But yeah, mild pollution over here. Just mild pollution, to say the least. We shouldn't have any ground pollution over here. Nope. Not in this split. This is not the polluted split. Although we do have some noise pollution, unfortunately, due to the 30,000 elementary school kids that are walking up and down this street every day. Well, that's just something you have to deal with, innit? The only noise pollution causing things we've got here are like bars and commercial things in schools, so it's just one of them, innit? It's part of life. All of the big guggers are going on over here in the industrial estate, so they can be annoyed by it, and not the people trying to sleep. Last but not least, water pollution. We don't have any water pollution because we've got no pollution over here. Just some nice clean water getting slurped up. As for over here, we do have a little bit of water pollution because we're spitting out all of our shite underneath the bridge here. But it's under the bridge, so like most of the time you don't even see or notice it. So that's why we do it. But it's not an issue because where we drink water from is all the way upstream. Now look, nice clean water there. Now to worry about. And that is the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed some random bloke just like yapping on for far too long about a creation in a video game. But on a serious note, I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you want to play around on this map yourself and you have City Skylines 2, I'm going to upload this map to the mod workshop so you can have a little bit of a look around, make some changes, maybe even continue the city, expand some tiles. Imagine that. I can't, I'm not allowed to imagine that. Starting tiles only, pal. But you don't have to stay starting tiles only. You can let your wildest dreams run free with this $500 million doos or whatever we got saved up in this city. And if you do either play on or fix it, if you want to try and fix it, let us know. Seriously, I'm super keen to see if anybody here tries to fix this and then realises that it's perfect and they've just made it worse. I'd be keen to hear your hair-pulling story. For those of you that don't get sarcasm, that might have been sarcasm there. Or if you decide to expand, maybe connect the cities together, or turn them into two rival cities that expand outwards and just leave this gap in the middle of the map. Hey, I'll leave it to your imaginations if you do want to continue these cities. Because as the last episode said, it was their finale. We can't be continuing on now, it's done. But Splyt Cyty has grown to more than I ever thought I was going to do with it. I didn't think I was going to manually place a massive terrace estate. Never mind the triangle estate that was manually placed, the northeast quay that was manually placed. Pretty much all of the offices were manually placed. There's so much of this was manually placed and move it, and the roads took so very long to squeeze in. And not have them colliding and everything like that, and like actually be somewhat reasonable with percentage gradients and that. But it's became exactly what I wanted out of City Skylines 2, and in particular this series. I wanted to go somewhat natural with it. Of course we had our restrictions which I touched on in the beginning and everything, but I do feel like Evergreen Swamp sort of naturally evolved. Terrace Hills in particular, that naturally evolved and things like that, and how we managed to work in the old Victorian tunnels with the parking and everything. Squeezing in those housing estates, again manually placed, but was great fun. And I do have some more ideas for series, not just like build a city, but a little bit of a play and twist on the situation, you know? I wouldn't expect to see that next series like next week or anything. It might be a little while. I've got some things I want to get done first. But it will be back. We will be playing some City Skylines 2 again. And it will likely be a lot more hectic than this was, believe it or not. Woo! Aye, it's going to be a fun one, the next series, when that rolls round. Before we end this map tour, I just want to give a proper thank you to anybody that's created mods for this game, even if I don't use it. But I can't say without a shadow of a doubt, I could not play this game very long without mods. It's exactly the same with City Skylines 1, by the way. Required to have mods to play that game. Most of the time it's traffic. Traffic is what requires me to get mods. Saying that without rambling too much, cheers to the mod creators. Big cheers to anybody that's enjoyed this series, watched along, or just clicked on this video and enjoyed that. I'm happy you got to see me mental creation. And with all of that being said, I bid you adieu. Toodaloo.